The woman standing in my kitchen held my brass house key around one finger, as if she had won it at an auction. Behind her, a man in navy scrubs opened the pantry I had built, and another woman pressed both palms against my restored dining room wall. "Original brick?" she asked. "Mostly," Lorraine said. "My son's fiancé did some cosmetic work. Graham stood by the sink staring at the green tile instead of me." "What is this?" I asked. He finally looked up. "Mara, you need to be out by Friday." It was Thursday evening. Lorraine smiled at the strangers. "Why don't we give them a minute?" The question that lodged under my ribs wasn't why his mother had rented out our home. It was why Graham looked frightened of me when he had clearly decided I no longer counted. The man in scrubs glanced between us. "We can come back." "No need," Graham said quickly. "Actually, there is." I set my tote bag on the kitchen island. Lorraine had cleared away the clay bowl where we dropped our keys, but one pale green ring remained on the wood where it had sat. "Who are they?" "I'm Daniel," the man said, because he had apparently been raised better than the people giving tours of my bedroom. "This is Audrey." Audrey withdrew her hands from the brick. "We're supposed to move in tomorrow night." "Into what?" "The house," Lorraine said. She sounded annoyed that I was slowing down a transaction. My eyes returned to the key circling her finger. I had polished it at this same island 18 months earlier, working black tarnish out of the grooves with an old toothbrush. The faded green ribbon tied through its bow had come from a bundle of tile samples. Graham had kissed the top of my head and said, "Now it's ours." "Where did you get that?" I asked Lorraine. She stopped swinging it. "Graham gave it to me." "I gave you an emergency copy." "This is an emergency." "For whom?" Graham pushed away from the sink. He was still wearing the gray button-down he wore to the office, sleeves rolled neatly to his elbows. He always rolled them the same number of times. He could make panic look like project management. "Daniel, Audrey, Mom, could you give us 10 minutes? Lorraine's mouth tightened. "The listing promised a walkthrough." "The listing," I repeated. Audrey looked at Graham. "We already sent the deposit." That made him flinch. Daniel noticed. "A substantial deposit." "It's fine," Graham said. "Everything is fine. There's just been a communication issue. Apparently, I missed a newsletter." "Mara." He used my name the way people used a napkin to cover a stain. Lorraine handed him the key. He took it, then set it beside the sink instead of returning it to me. "Come on," Lorraine told the tenants. "You haven't seen the upstairs bath." "I have," Audrey said. "There were women's things in it. They'll be gone tomorrow." The 4 words crossed the kitchen cleanly. Graham said, "Mom, what?" "That's what you told me." Daniel folded his arms. Audrey studied me with the wary sympathy people reserved for somebody else's public humiliation. I picked up my tote. "Show them the upstairs bath." "Mara, don't do this." "Do what? Interrupt the tour?" I walked past Lorraine. She smelled like her usual lemon perfume and the furniture polish she had used on my dining table without asking. As I reached the staircase, she touched my elbow. "This could have been handled gently," she murmured. I looked at her hand until she removed it. Upstairs, our bedroom door stood open. The quilt had been smoothed, but Lorraine had stacked my books on the floor and put a white orchid on the dresser. One of my sweaters hung from the half-closed laundry hamper like a tongue. On the bed lay a printed sheet in a clear plastic sleeve. "Fully restored historic home," it said. "Flexible corporate lease, 3 private rooms, professionally designed." My photographs filled the page. Morning light on the green kitchen tile. The dining table set with my dishes. Graham's hand holding a coffee cup at the edge of one frame. The rate was almost twice our monthly mortgage payment. I heard the others on the stairs. I folded the listing once and slipped it into my tote. Graham entered first. "Can we please talk in private?" "You're conducting business in my bedroom." "It's my house," he said. He said it softly, which made it worse. Lorraine stopped in the doorway behind him. Daniel and Audrey remained on the landing. I looked at the ceiling medallion I had spent 3 weekends cleaning with cotton swabs. There it is. That's not what I meant. It sounded polished. Have you been practicing? His jaw shifted. The deed is in my name. The mortgage is in my name. We're under serious financial pressure, and this is a way out. We? Yes, we. But only one of us has to leave by tomorrow. It's temporary. Audrey cleared her throat. We were told the owner wouldn't be occupying the property. Graham pressed his fingertips to his forehead. Lorraine stepped in. Graham will stay with me for the term of your lease. Mara has other options. That was news to me. Which options? You have friends. So does Graham. He owns the house. Graham turned. Mom, stop helping. I am the only one helping. Her voice cracked on the last word just slightly. Lorraine hated raised voices and produced them whenever she felt ignored. Daniel lifted a hand. We don't need to be in the middle of this. You aren't, Graham said. You have a signed agreement. The house will be ready Friday by 6. I looked at him. You signed a lease? His silence changed the air. Not an idea, then. Not Lorraine charging ahead and Graham failing to restrain her. He had signed his name. He had accepted money. He had chosen a move-in time. How long? I asked. Mara, downstairs. How long have you been advertising our home? A little over 2 weeks, Lorraine said. Graham swung toward her. Could you let me handle one thing? Her face went still. I found the tenants. And you've made that very clear. The flash of resentment between them surprised me. Lorraine's plan wasn't unfolding as smoothly as she had expected. Graham had needed her, and he hated her for witnessing it. Audrey whispered something to Daniel. He nodded. We'll leave, he said. But I want confirmation by noon tomorrow that the rooms will be empty and that our agreement is valid. It is, Graham said. Daniel looked at me, not him. Will the rooms be empty? I could have embarrassed Graham. One sentence would have done it. I could have said I wasn't leaving, forced him to explain whether he planned to drag my dresser onto the sidewalk. Instead, I said, you should ask the owner. Graham heard the blade in that. Lorraine walked the tenants downstairs, switching back into her gracious voice before she reached the second step. She mentioned the nearby hospital, the quiet block, the new appliances. The dishwasher had been delivered the morning after I postponed a dental procedure to cover the final payment. Graham shut the bedroom door. I know how this looks. Efficient? It got out of hand. You listed the house 2 weeks ago. Mom listed it. I didn't know she'd taken photographs until afterward. But you signed the lease 3 days ago. Before or after you asked me to meet the caterer on Saturday? He sat on the edge of the bed. The mattress sank beneath him. After. I laughed once. I didn't mean to. The sound came out thin and strange. We can't keep bleeding money, he said. The roof went over budget. The plumbing went over budget. The wedding keeps growing every time we turn around. The wedding isn't growing by itself. You wanted the hotel. Your mother wanted the hotel because the restaurant I chose didn't have a private entrance. That's not the point. What is the point? He stood again. Sitting had made him feel disadvantaged. The point is, these tenants are paying 4 months up front. 4, Mara. That clears the contractor balance, covers the wedding deposits, and gives us room to breathe. Where do I breathe? I thought you could stay with Nina. My friend Nina lived in a 1-bedroom apartment with a terrier who considered visitors an act of war. You thought? Just until the wedding. Then we reassess. Our wedding is in 7 weeks. I know when our wedding is. Do you? He rubbed his face. I was going to tell you tonight. You did, in front of 2 tenants. I didn't know Mom was bringing them over. You didn't know she had pictures. You didn't know she was bringing them. Is there any part of this plan you did know? I knew you'd react like this. There it was, the relief of making my reaction the ugliest object in the room. I walked to the closet and opened my side. My clothes were packed tight because Lorraine had moved Graham's winter coats over from the hall closet. She said the hall needed to feel spacious for wedding guests. If I'd come home 20 minutes later, I asked, would they have been sitting at my dining table signing something? They've already signed. Right. Mara, listen to me. We have been living as if this house belongs to both of us. Financially, it doesn't. I turned slowly. He looked sick the moment the words left him, but he didn't take them back. Downstairs, the front door opened. Lorraine laughed at something Audrey said. The sound was bright, almost girlish. I closed the closet. Graham stepped toward me. That came out wrong. No, it came out finished. You know how much I value what you've done here. Do I? I couldn't have managed the renovation without you. That was supposed to be tenderness. It landed like an invoice. When we bought the house, or when Graham bought it, as I had just been reminded, it smelled of wet plaster and old cooking oil. The first night, we ate takeout on the floor because the electricity in the dining room kept tripping. Graham had held up the single working key and said we should tie something bright to it so we wouldn't lose it in the mess. I found the green ribbon. For months, I met electricians before work and plumbers during lunch. I learned which salvage yard kept odd-sized doors and which city clerk answered emails. Graham paid the mortgage. I paid most of our daily life because he was building our equity. Every time I asked when my name would become part of that equity, he kissed me and said after the wedding would be cleaner. Cleaner had finally arrived. Lorraine tapped before entering, though she did not wait for an answer. They've gone, she said. They're understandably nervous. I'm sorry my eviction lacked hospitality. She exhaled through her nose. You're being dramatic. Graham gave me until tomorrow. No one is putting you on the street. You earn a salary, you have a car, you have friends. Is that what you told the tenants? I told them the house would be vacant. Graham moved between us not to defend me but to prevent a scene he might have to remember. Mom, go home. I'm trying to keep your agreement from falling apart. I said go. She stared at him. For a second, I saw something almost wounded beneath her anger. Then she reached into her handbag and removed a small ring of keys. 3 new silver copies hung beside the brass one's twin. The tenants need separate access, she said. The locksmith labeled them. I looked at Graham. You changed the locks? Only the bedroom locks. We don't have bedroom locks. We do now. Lorraine set the ring on the dresser. Daniel is room 1. Audrey is room 2. The other tenant arrives Sunday. My office, I said. The front room was always wasted as an office, she replied. It gets the best light. That room held my drafting table, renovation samples, tax folders, and the green metal cabinet containing every permit, paid receipt, inspection record, and contractor warranty for the house. Graham's gaze flicked toward the hallway. A small movement. Barely anything. But I caught it. You went through the cabinet, I said. No. He answered too fast. Lorraine's expression changed. Not guilt. Calculation. What did you need? I asked. Mara, Graham said, we can discuss paperwork after you've had time to calm down. The final property inspection was scheduled for Saturday morning. I had placed the confirmation sheet on his desk 2 weeks ago, then emailed him when he left coffee on it. The inspector would need access to the basement, the electrical panel, and the renovated bath, and someone had removed the confirmation from the green cabinet. Did you cancel Saturday? I asked. Neither of them answered. Lorraine picked up the new keys and aligned them on the dresser, each silver tooth facing the same direction. Graham looked at her. She looked back at him. For the first time that evening, they seemed less like people who had won and more like people waiting to see what I knew. Who took the inspection notice out of my cabinet? Graham loosened his collar. I did. Why? Because it needs to be rescheduled. Did you reschedule it? I couldn't get into the project portal. You have your own login. It says I'm the property owner, but you're still listed as the project contact. Because you asked me to handle the project. I'm aware of why. Lorraine collected the keys from the dresser. This is exactly the kind of administrative complication we're trying to avoid. I looked at her. Then stop creating complications with keys. She slipped the ring into her purse. These tenants need secure rooms. The permit for the basement says storage only. Did you show them a fourth bedroom down there? There are 3 tenants. That wasn't my question. Graham said, nobody is sleeping in the basement. Lorraine looked toward the window. He noticed. Mom, there was interest from a physical therapist who works nights, she said. I told him it might become available later. It won't, I said. You don't make that decision. Neither do you. The ceiling height is perfectly adequate. The ceiling height is 6 feet 9 under the beam. There's no legal egress, and the smoke detector is sitting in a paint tray. Lorraine lifted her chin, then put it back. It was such a pure expression of how she saw me that I almost smiled. She made a hazardous promise, and I was expected to climb a ladder. Graham pointed toward the hall. Can everyone stop? The basement isn't part of the lease. Saturday's inspection is a separate issue. It becomes the same issue if the house is a rental, I said. He looked at the closed bedroom door as if the walls might be listening. The program doesn't prohibit guests. Tenants aren't guests. They're here for a limited term, with keyed locks and a signed lease. Lorraine said, the program wants the house restored. It is restored. What difference does it make who sleeps in it? The reduced rate was for an owner-occupied property. My son owns it. And by tomorrow night, he won't occupy it. Graham's shoulders dropped. For one hopeful second, I thought the obvious had reached him. Then he said, that's why I need you to help me explain it correctly. Lorraine opened her handbag again and removed a folded sheet. She gave it to him, not me. He did not unfold it. Not now. What is that? I asked. It's nothing. Lorraine answered over him. A simple statement confirming that Daniel and the others are temporary guests contributing to household expenses. The paper made a dry sound in Graham's hand. You printed a lie for me to sign? It isn't a lie, she said. They are temporary. Did you also print one for the tenants? They don't need to be involved in the inspection. They'll be living here. They work long shifts. The confidence of it took my breath away. Lorraine had scheduled their absence in her mind. She'd probably imagined clean rooms, hidden leases, matching explanations, coffee for the inspector in my good cups. Graham stepped closer and lowered his voice. Mara, no one is asking you to do anything tonight. Pack what you need. Go to Nina's. We'll talk in the morning after we've slept. Will I own part of the house in the morning? His face hardened. Then sleep probably won't help. I walked out of the bedroom and into the front room. My drafting table had already been cleared. Sample boards leaned against the wall in a messy stack, and my folders from the green cabinet were spread across the rug. Lorraine followed me. We had to see what should remain with the property. You had to? Warranties, manuals, permits, things a tenant may reasonably need. A tenant reasonably needs the refrigerator manual if it stops working. She calls the landlord, I said. That's what all this rent is buying. I crouched beside the folders. The cabinet had 3 drawers. The top held permits and inspection records. The middle held contractor invoices and receipts. The bottom held paint formulas, appliance manuals, and my notebooks. Now they were mixed together in piles labeled house, personal, and unclear on Lorraine's cream stationery. My notebooks were in the house pile. I picked them up. Lorraine reached for the top one. Those document the restoration. They also contain my work notes, grocery lists, and a very unkind description of the man who installed the upstairs toilet. From the doorway, Graham said, that was Paul. Yes, he really was terrible. For half a second, the old rhythm returned. Graham's mouth almost bent into a smile. I remembered us sitting on the bathroom floor after Paul left, watching water bloom through the new ceiling below. Graham had brought up 2 spoons and a carton of ice cream because the kitchen was covered in plastic. Then Lorraine said, the notebooks should stay until the final inspection. The moment closed, I gathered them against my chest. They won't. Mara, The inspection file has to remain complete, Graham said. The official documents can stay. My notes are mine. You can't take anything connected to the property just because you're angry. And you can't classify everything I touched as property. I didn't say that. You stood here while she made piles. His eyes went to the labels. That seemed to embarrass him more than the lease. I spent the next hour sorting while they hovered. Every object became a small trial. The laser measure I had bought was mine. The tile cutter Graham had paid for was his. My drill came with me, but the wall anchors stayed. Lorraine claimed the linen curtains were fitted to the windows. I showed her the charge on my phone and folded them into a storage bin. They won't have privacy, she said. They can use the blinds. The blinds are ugly. You picked them. Graham made a tired sound that might have been a laugh if he had been braver. The green ceramic key bowl was downstairs in the sideboard. Lorraine had moved it before the tour because its repaired chip looked casual. I wrapped it in a dish towel and placed it with my mixing bowls. That was a housewarming gift, Graham said. Nina gave it to me. She gave it to us. The card said, Mara, a bowl for the keys Graham will lose. He looked offended. I lost 1 key. You lost 3. 2. Mom had the other. Lorraine said I was keeping it safe. I put the bowl in the bin. At 10, Lorraine finally left. She hugged Graham in the entryway and whispered loudly enough for me to hear, "Do not let her take fixtures." I was carrying a lamp past them. "I'm coming back at 8, she added. "The cleaner will be here at 9. No cleaner is touching my bedroom while I'm sleeping in it." Lorraine met my eyes. "Then be awake." After the door closed, Graham locked it and rested his forehead against the wood. "Congratulations," I said. "You finally made her leave." He turned. "Do you think I wanted any of this?" I looked around at the emptied walls, the labeled keys, the listing photographs. "Which part happened against your will?" "The debt." "What debt?" "The renovation balance." "How much?" $27,000. I stared at him. The number we had discussed 2 weeks earlier was 11. He walked to the kitchen and opened a bottle of sparkling water. The mason submitted his final bill. There were change orders. "The program reimbursement is being held until closeout." "You said the reimbursement had cleared." "I said it was covered." "That is not the same sentence." "I knew you'd panic." "Your solution to my possible panic was fraud with matching stationery." "It isn't fraud." "Then show the inspector the lease." He gripped the bottle so tightly it crackled. I thought about every dinner Graham had waved away the check because he had a rewards card. Every Sunday Lorraine had arrived with expensive groceries and a speech about helping us save. Their performance of competence had needed an audience. I had been useful because I believed it. "Was the wedding deposit paid?" I asked. "Most of it." "With what?" "Credit." "How much credit?" "Mara, can we not audit my entire life at midnight?" Our lives were supposed to merge in 7 weeks. They were. They are. "No, you rented mine by the room." He sat at the island and stared at the pale ring where the key bowl had been. "The tenants aren't moving into your life," he said. "They're moving into a building." I had never heard him sound more like Lorraine. I carried the first packed bin upstairs. He did not follow. I slept for perhaps 2 hours, fully dressed on top of the quilt. At 6, I woke to cabinet doors opening downstairs. Lorraine had returned early. I found her in the kitchen filling a cardboard box with my dishes. "You said 8. You said many things last night." "Put those down. The tenants require basic place settings." "They're my dishes." She held up a white dinner plate. "These were here at Thanksgiving." "So was my purse." Graham appeared in the doorway wearing yesterday's shirt. "Mom, why are you here?" "To prevent the house from being stripped." I took the plate from her and returned it to the cabinet. "You can buy dishes with the rent. That money is allocated. So is my china." "It isn't china." "I know. I was trying to help you feel important." Her lips compressed. Graham looked into the refrigerator. Lorraine began wrapping the plates in newspaper anyway. I put my hands on the box. For a few seconds, neither of us let go. Then Graham said, Mom, those are hers. She released the box. It was a pitifully small victory, but it changed the room. Lorraine looked at her son as if he had betrayed an agreement made before I arrived. "I'm going to get coffee," she said. "There's coffee here," Graham replied. "I know." She took her purse and left. Graham and I stood across the box of dishes. "Thank you," I said. He winced. "You shouldn't have to thank me for that." "No." He leaned back against the counter. "I can pay you back." "For the dishes?" "For some of what you put into the house." The offer came too smoothly. "How much?" "We can work it out, but I need the closeout completed. Once the reimbursement comes through, there will actually be money to divide." There it was, my own money waiting on the other side of my cooperation. He retrieved Lorraine's folded statement from the counter and opened it. I read the first line from where I stood. I, Mara Vance, confirm that the individuals present at the property are non-paying personal guests of the owner. You want me to sign that before or after they pay you 4 months' rent? They've already paid Lorraine. Lorraine? She collected the deposits because she handled the listing. Did the lease tell them to pay her? His silence answered. A new problem moved behind his eyes. He had signed the agreement, but Lorraine had the money. I almost felt sorry for him. Then he placed a pen on the counter. "Help me get through Saturday," he said. "I'll write an agreement acknowledging $8,000 of your contribution. I had spent more than that even before counting the work. Show me the contractor invoices." Mara. All of them. The change orders, the outstanding balance, the program paperwork, and the account where Lorraine put the rent. That's not reasonable. But lying to an inspector for $8,000 is... It's not a bribe. It has a number and a pen. The front door opened. Nina backed inside carrying 2 flattened moving boxes under one arm and a tray of coffees in the other. "I knocked," she said, "but a woman in lemon perfume told me to go save you from your personality." Graham closed his eyes. Nina set the coffees down, noticed the statement between us, and read it upside down. "Oh," she said, "we're doing documents before caffeine. That's usually a bad sign." I folded the statement and handed it back to Graham. "Keep your $8,000. His face changed. "Don't make a decision you'll regret because Nina is here." Nina lifted one coffee. "I can wait outside if you'd like to make the terrible offer again privately." He ignored her. "If you interfere with the inspection, the reimbursement disappears. There may be penalties. There will be less money for everyone." "Then don't interfere with it," I said. "I'm asking you to postpone it." "You can ask the program yourself." I did. They need the project contact to authorize the change before noon today. He had known that last night. That was the fear I had seen when I asked about the missing notice. I picked up my coffee. What happens if I do nothing? The appointment stays. Nina slid one of the flattened boxes open. The cardboard snapped into shape. Graham watched me over the island. I took a sip. "Then you'd better spend today getting the house ready for inspection." Nina handed me the first open box. "Kitchen or office?" "Kitchen." "Lorraine will count the forks if we don't." "She seems like a woman who knows exactly how many forks everybody deserves." Graham pushed the pen into his shirt pocket. "This isn't funny." "No," Nina said. "But your mother called me a bad influence in my own hallway, so I'm managing my feelings." "You spoke to her for 30 seconds. It was a rich 30 seconds. I carried the box to the cabinets." Graham followed, lowering his voice. "Postponing an inspection is not a moral failure. Then postpone it." "You know I can't." "You mean you can't without me. This project exists because I bought the house, and it survived because I managed it. I'm offering to compensate you. You're offering to pay me less than I spent if I help you conceal tenants from an inspector. Keep saying it like that, and yes, it sounds bad." Nina reached past him for a stack of bowls. "There may be a reason for that." He moved out of her way. "Could you stay out of this?" "I'm packing stoneware. Mara and the stoneware are staying with me. That gives me standing." I glanced at her. The stoneware might have to go to storage. Fine, I'll represent it remotely. Graham left us in the kitchen and went upstairs. A door closed, then another. He was inspecting the rooms, calculating what my departure would do to Lorraine's listing photographs. By 9, we had packed the dishes, lamps, linens, books, and most of my office. Nina labeled every box with a thick black marker and commentary Lorraine would hate. Mara, actual personal property. Mara, also not a fixture. Mara, yes, even this. I crossed out the last one. She'll use that as evidence that we're unstable. We are writing on cardboard, not the moon. The cleaner arrived at 9:10, took one look at the boxes and Graham's face, and asked whether she should come another day. "You're already here," he said. "Start upstairs." "My things are still upstairs," I told her. She shifted her caddy to the other hand. "I can start with the empty rooms." "There aren't any empty rooms," I said. "Basement," Graham said. The cleaner peered toward the basement door. "Your mother told me not to clean down there because someone painted over wet plaster." Graham stared at her. She looked at me. Should I not have said that? "You're doing beautifully," Nina said. Graham paid her cancellation fee and sent her away. He waited until the door closed. "Did you tell her about the basement?" "I have never met that woman. Mom must have." "Then maybe ask your listing agent." He took out his phone. Lorraine returned before he could call. She carried 4 shopping bags from a discount home store and the expression of someone arriving with emergency supplies after a storm. "I bought everything the house needs," she announced. The bags contained gray towels, plastic cups, 3 sheet sets, a frying pan, and a framed print that said, "Gather." Nina held it up. "Thread or instruction?" Lorraine took it from her. Audrey arrived at 11:15, still in scrubs, with a rolling suitcase and 2 garment bags. She stopped just inside the door when she saw the boxes. "You said 6, Graham told her. "My current rental ended this morning. Your mother said I could leave my things here." "Of course you can," Lorraine said. Audrey looked into the front room. The curtains were down, my drafting table was folded, and pale rectangles marked the walls where my framed prints had hung. "Is this how it's going to look?" Lorraine lifted the Gather print. "We're refreshing it." Audrey did not look refreshed. "Where's the desk from the listing?" "Not included," Graham said. "The listing said furnished." "It will be." "With what?" Lorraine's eyes moved to Nina's marker. Audrey turned to me. "Are you actually moving out?" I taped a box closed. "Yes." "Because of us?" "Because of him." Graham stepped between us with the careful smile he used when a contractor quoted a number he disliked. "Audrey, your room will be ready by 6. I apologize for the confusion." "Daniel thinks we should back out." Lorraine's head snapped toward her. "You signed a lease." "We signed for a furnished house." Also, he searched the address and couldn't find a rental license. "The property does not require one for a temporary arrangement," Lorraine said. Audrey looked at Graham. "Is that true?" He answered with a question. "Did Daniel tell you to come here and interrogate me?" "No. He told me to photograph everything." She raised her phone and took a picture of the bare front windows. Lorraine moved in front of them. "That is unnecessary." "So were bedroom locks, apparently, but you billed us for those." "I did no such thing." "It's on the move-in statement." Audrey unzipped the outside pocket of her suitcase and removed several stapled pages. I recognized Graham's signature at the bottom of the first. Lorraine reached for them. "May I see?" Audrey pulled them back. "You wrote them." "I know what I wrote." "Then why do you need mine?" Nina made a quiet, approving sound. Graham heard it. "Could everyone give me and Audrey a minute?" "This is still my home until 6, I said. His eyes met mine. We had never established 6 as the time I lost the right to stand there. Daniel had established it as the time the house should be ready. Somehow Graham had let a tenant's deadline become my eviction hour. He rubbed the back of his neck. "Fine. Audrey, the house was renovated under an owner-occupant program. The final inspection is tomorrow. Once that's complete, the paperwork will be updated. I stopped taping. That was a new version. Audrey frowned. Updated to what? A limited rental. Have you applied for that? We're in the process. Lorraine answered at the same time. It's automatic. They looked at each other. Audrey folded the lease. I need to speak to Daniel. Your deposit is non-refundable, Lorraine said. Maybe. His brother is an attorney. The room went quiet. It was not the threat itself. People mentioned attorneys every day. It was the speed with which Lorraine changed. Let's not make this adversarial, she said warmly. You've worked a long shift. Come see your room. Audrey stayed where she was. Is tomorrow's inspector going to say we can't live here? Graham looked at me. He wanted the answer to come from the project contact. Better yet, from his fiancé. If I reassured Audrey, he could repeat it on Saturday. I don't know what the inspector will say, I told her, but you know there's an inspection. Yes. And you're leaving before it. Yes. Why? Graham said my name. I lifted my box. You should ask the owner. Audrey watched me carry it outside. Nina's hatchback, my car, and a rented cargo van filled most of the curb. I had reserved a storage unit while Graham slept. It was farther away than I wanted and cost more than seemed reasonable for a concrete room with an orange door, but the clerk had promised it was dry. Nina followed me out. That woman is going to walk. Maybe. Do you want her to? I want her to know what she rented. You could tell her. I could. I slid the box into the van. Through the front window, Graham stood close to Audrey, speaking with both hands. Lorraine waited behind her son with the framed word pressed to her chest. If I tell her everything, I said, he'll say I sabotaged the lease. He's going to say that anyway. I know. That was the setback hidden inside every choice. Graham had arranged the story so my silence helped him and my honesty injured him. Either could be used as evidence that I was vindictive. Nina leaned against the van. What do you need from him? The first answer was money. It was also an apology, a corrected deed, a different mother, 7 years returned in usable condition, and the exact moment when he decided my work had become his asset. I need to stop needing him to agree with me, I said. Nina nodded once. That sounds expensive. It is. We loaded until late afternoon. At 3, Graham changed tactics. He brought sandwiches from the deli where we had gone during the first week of demolition. Mine had turkey, mustard, and no tomato. He remembered. We sat on the back steps because the kitchen chairs were already in the van. I called the program office, he said. I waited. They won't change the appointment without your authorization. If I miss it, they charge a reinspection fee. Then don't miss it. You can still attend. I plan to. He looked surprised. Why? I'm the project contact. I thought you wanted nothing more to do with the house. I want nothing more to do for the house. There's a difference. He set down his sandwich. Are you going to tell the inspector about the lease? If she asks me a question, I'll answer it. You could ruin me. The back door opened behind us. Lorraine stepped out, saw the sandwiches, and stopped. Something passed over her face before she covered it. Jealousy looked ridiculous in a woman her age until I understood it was grief. She had arranged an alliance with her son, but she had not erased the part of him that knew my lunch order. The tenants are asking for an inventory, she said. Make one. Graham replied. I don't know what Mara is still taking. Mara is sitting right here, I said. Lorraine ignored me. Daniel arrives at 5:30 with the balance. We should provide a receipt. You collected the first payment, Graham said. You provide it. The money has been applied. To what? The immediate needs of the property. What immediate needs cost $12,000? Her face stiffened. We discussed the contractor balance. No, we discussed you holding the deposit until move-in. I paid the masons $6,000 and the locksmith $800. I ordered mattresses. I reimbursed myself for the roof payment. What roof payment? The one I made in March. Graham stood so quickly his sandwich fell onto the step. You told me that was a gift. I said I would help. You took it from my rent? Our rent, Lorraine said. I found these people." He stared at her. For once, I was not the woman between them. I was sitting outside their system, watching it expose its own wiring. At 5:40, Daniel arrived with a duffel bag and a bank envelope. Audrey came back 10 minutes later with 2 more suitcases. They carried boxes past me as Nina and I took the last load out. By nightfall, paying tenants were moving into the home I had helped restore. Lorraine made up the beds with gray sheets. Graham assembled 2 flat-pack nightstands in the dining room. The front tenant room received an air mattress and the Gather print. Daniel asked twice for an inventory. Audrey photographed the scuffed wall behind my drafting table. Nobody mentioned the 3rd tenant due Sunday. I took my suitcase upstairs for one final check. The bedroom looked larger without my lamps and quilt. My side of the closet was empty. On Graham's side, his clothes still hung in place. "You're supposed to be staying with your mother," I said when he came in. "I'll move my things tomorrow." "After the inspection?" He did not answer. I rolled my suitcase downstairs. Everyone was in the kitchen. Daniel counted bills from the bank envelope while Graham wrote a receipt at the island. Lorraine explained that the missing smoke detector would be reinstalled in the morning. I removed the brass key from my ring. The green ribbon was soft and frayed between my fingers. Graham looked up. "Mara." I set the key on the pale circle where the ceramic bowl had once rested. Lorraine crossed her arms as if she expected a speech. I carried my suitcase out without arguing. At 9:50 the next morning, I stood at the curb beside Elena Ruiz from the preservation program. She wore work boots, carried a tablet, and had the inspection confirmation clipped beneath a floor plan. "There are a lot of cars," she said. "The property is occupied." "So, Mr. Mercer is home?" "He's inside." At 10, Elena walked up the steps and knocked. Through the front window, I saw Graham at the island with Daniel's lease open beside him and the last of the rent still being counted. He answered the door, saw the property inspector, and then saw me standing behind her. For a moment, he forgot to pretend he had expected us. Elena looked from Graham to the open lease on the island. "Good morning," she said. "Elena Ruiz, we spoke in April." "Yes, of course." He stepped onto the porch, pulling the door partly closed behind him. "I'm sorry. I didn't realize Mara was still attending." Elena checked her tablet. "Ms. Vance is the project contact. That should have been changed. I sent you the contact change form when you called yesterday. I didn't receive it. I received the automated confirmation that you opened it." His eyes moved to me. I had spent years rescuing him from moments like that, finding a softer interpretation, supplying the forgotten detail, turning an exposed lie into ordinary confusion. The reflex rose in me before I could stop it. I kept my mouth closed. Elena lifted the floor plan. "Are you ready for the final inspection?" "Yes, but the house is in transition. We have guests." "Guests?" "Colleagues. They're staying temporarily and contributing to expenses." Inside, a kitchen drawer opened. Daniel asked, "Where do you keep the scissors?" Elena glanced past Graham. He smiled too quickly. "We've been helping medical professionals with temporary housing." "That sounds like rental use." "It isn't a formal rental." Daniel appeared behind him holding the lease. "The scissors," he said. Audrey packed tape around the coffee maker. He noticed Elena and stopped. Graham turned, blocking most of the doorway. "Daniel, this is the property inspector." Daniel looked at the papers in his hand, then at the rent spread across the island. "Excellent," he said. "Maybe she can tell me whether this lease is legal." Elena's expression did not change, but her attention sharpened. "May I come in, Mr. Mercer?" Graham stayed in the doorway for 1 second too long. Then he stepped aside. The kitchen smelled like new sheets, burnt coffee, and Lorraine's lemon perfume. She stood by the stove with a roll of paper towels tucked under one arm. Audrey was cutting packing tape with a butter knife. The brass key lay exactly where I had left it, its green ribbon trailing across the pale circle on the wood. Lorraine recovered first. "Ms. Ruiz," she said. "What a surprise. We're still organizing." The appointment was scheduled several months ago. I mean, the timing. Our guests have just arrived. Audrey set down the knife. We're tenants. Lorraine gave her a firm, maternal smile. For a short period. That's still the word. Elena turned to Graham. Is there a rental agreement? We're discussing terms. Daniel held up the pages. We discussed them Wednesday. Graham reached for the lease. Daniel moved it behind his back. I'd like a copy, Elena said. This agreement is private, Lorraine replied. Then I'll note that you declined to provide it. I can complete the physical inspection and verify property use through the program office. I didn't decline, Graham said. Lorraine looked at him. Graham. He held out his hand to Daniel. Please. Daniel studied him, then gave the lease directly to Elena. She read the first page without comment. The paper whispered when she turned it over. I saw her eyes pause at the monthly rate, the 3 private rooms, and Graham's signature. This lease began yesterday? Yes, Daniel said. And Mr. Mercer does not occupy the property during the term? That's what we were told. Elena looked toward the stairs. Where are you residing, Mr. Mercer? With family temporarily. Your owner-occupancy agreement requires this property to remain your primary residence through the program period unless a conversion is approved. I understand. Has a conversion been approved? We were told it was automatic, Lorraine said. Graham's face tightened. Mom, please. Elena turned to her. Are you an owner of the property? No, I'm assisting my son. Then I need answers from him. Lorraine went silent, but her hands continued working. She tore one paper towel from the roll, folded it into a small square, and wiped a clean section of counter. Elena opened the inspection checklist. Let's begin upstairs. Graham walked beside her. I stayed a few steps behind, close enough to answer if she needed me, and far enough that no one could pretend I was leading her toward a result. The upstairs bathroom passed. The tile was level, the exhaust fan worked, and the plumbing held pressure. Elena complimented the restored medicine cabinet. Graham nodded, as if he had found it under 6 layers of paint himself. In the back bedroom, she noticed the new lock. This wasn't on the approved scope. It's just a privacy lock, Graham said. It's keyed from the hallway. For our guests. Tenants, Audrey called from downstairs. Elena photographed the lock. The front bedroom had Lorraine's gray sheets stretched over our mattress. My old side of the closet stood open and empty. Graham's clothes were gone now, stuffed into garment bags behind the door. Elena tested the window, checked the outlet, and moved on. For a few minutes, the inspection was painfully ordinary. Measurements, photographs, the click of switches. Elena asked where a GFCI label had gone, and Graham knew the answer. He had been present for more of the renovation than I sometimes gave him credit for. That hurt in a different way. He was not helpless. He had simply preferred being helped. At the basement door, he stopped. The basement wasn't part of the finished space. It was included in the electrical and moisture work, Elena said. There are supplies everywhere. That's fine. Lorraine came down the hall. Perhaps we should finish the occupied rooms first. We have, Elena said. Graham opened the basement door. The missing smoke detector still sat in the paint tray on the workbench. Beside it were the box for a keyed lock, a package of blackout curtains, and a folded metal bed frame. A rolled mattress leaned beneath the small window. Elena descended slowly. These weren't here at rough inspection. They were delivered for storage, Graham said. Lorraine remained at the top of the stairs. That mattress is for the front room. The front room has an air mattress, Daniel said from the kitchen. She closed her eyes. Elena crouched by the detector. Why was this removed? We painted the ceiling, Graham said. It was supposed to be reinstalled. The inspection notes from April say the basement detector was operational then. Yes. Who removed it? Lorraine looked at me. Mara arranged the painters. I felt Graham waiting for me to defend myself. The painters finished in May, I said. The detector was reinstalled before they were paid. I photographed the completed work for the reimbursement file. Elena found the photograph on her tablet. It showed the detector in place, the workbench empty, and the basement window unobstructed. "Then these changes came later," she said. Lorraine folded her arms. "A removable bed frame does not make a bedroom." "No," Elena said, "but marketing it as sleeping space may indicate an intended change of use. We never marketed the basement." "You told the physical therapist it might become available," Graham said. She stared down at him. "I was exploring demand." "You told me you hadn't offered it." "I said it wasn't part of the current lease." Elena photographed the mattress, the lock packaging, and the covered window. "The window is too small for sleeping space egress," she said. "The electrical permit does not include a bedroom circuit, and there is no approved sleeping area down here. Everything must remain storage unless a conversion is submitted and accepted." "I understand," Graham said. "We're also missing required fire protection at the time of final inspection. I can put the detector back right now. I'll note that it was absent when I arrived." His voice sharpened. "So you'd rather leave it unsafe?" "I'd rather you reinstall it immediately. The report will still reflect what I observed." Lorraine made a small, disgusted sound. Elena looked up at her. "Is there a concern?" "Yes. This house is safer than it was when Graham bought it. Mara did half the work herself, and now you're treating a mattress like structural misconduct." It was the first generous thing Lorraine had said about my work. She used it as a weapon against someone else. Elena replied, "I'm treating the signed lease as a rental and the basement as unapproved sleeping space, because that is what the documents and conditions indicate. I want to speak to your supervisor. I'll include the contact information with the report." Elena climbed the stairs. In the kitchen, she asked Graham for the owner occupancy certification. He opened a drawer, searched beneath appliance manuals, and found Lorraine's prepared statement instead. He pulled it out before realizing what it was. Elena held out her hand. "May I see that?" "No." Lorraine crossed the room. "It's a draft." Graham crushed the paper once in his fist, then smoothed it against the counter. His gaze found mine. I could see the question, the plea, and the accusation waiting behind it. He wanted me to say the draft had been misunderstood. He wanted one more piece of labor, this time performed with my face. I picked up the brass key and moved it away from the edge before it could fall. That was all. Elena closed the inspection file on her tablet. "I cannot approve final closeout today," she said. "The property used no longer matches the owner occupancy agreement. Required fire protection was absent, and there is evidence of an unapproved sleeping area. The program office will determine what corrections and additional review are required." "What happens to the reimbursement?" Graham asked. "It remains on hold." "For how long?" "Until the violations are resolved and the property's use is brought into compliance or a conversion is approved." "We can end the lease today." Daniel stepped forward. "After refunding us." "And our moving costs," Audrey added. Lorraine said, "The lease allows the owner time to cure a defect." Audrey looked at her. "The owner told an inspector we were colleagues contributing to expenses." Graham pressed both hands to the island. Elena gave him a printed notice from her folder and told him the full report would follow. There would be a reinspection fee. Rental conversion could not be considered until the fire and basement issues were corrected. The program office would review whether the reduced rehabilitation rate had to be adjusted because the house had been placed into rental use before closeout. Nothing exploded. The walls remained standing. The refrigerator kept humming. But the house stopped turning Graham's decisions into equity long enough for him to hear what they cost. Outside, Elena asked if I had retained any official documents. "The originals are in the green cabinet in the front room," I said. "My personal notebooks came with me." "Good. You should remove yourself as project contact if you're no longer representing the owner." "I will." Graham came onto the porch before she reached her car. "You knew exactly what she'd find. I knew there were tenants. You brought her here. She had an appointment. You could have changed it." "Yes." The word landed harder than an explanation. He glanced back through the open door. Lorraine and Daniel were talking over each other. Audrey had the lease spread on the island and was photographing the rent. "If you had given me 1 week, I could have fixed this." "You gave me 1 day." His face twisted. "I was under pressure. So was I." "That's different." "I know." I slipped the engagement ring from my finger. The skin beneath it looked pale and narrow. He stared at the ring in my palm. "Don't do this here." "Where would be appropriate? My home is occupied. Mara, we can survive this." I almost asked who he meant by we. Instead, I put the ring beside the brass key just inside the door. Lorraine saw it. For once, she had nothing ready to say. The inspection report arrived on Monday. Graham forwarded it to me with 4 words. "I hope you're satisfied." I did not answer. I logged into the project portal, uploaded the contact change form, and transferred the remaining administrative access to him. I included the names of the contractors, the location of the official files, and the warranty expiration dates. I did not call anyone on his behalf. That afternoon, he sent 6 questions about the reimbursement spreadsheet. I replied with the file name. He asked which Mason invoice was disputed. I replied with the folder label. When he asked me to meet the program officer because you have the relationship, I declined. The tenants left by Tuesday. Audrey sent me one message asking whether I had taken the curtains or Lorraine had hidden them. I told her I had bought them and taken them. She replied, "Good for you," followed by a photograph of the gather print face down in a trash can. Graham and Lorraine had to refund the deposits and the rent balance. Lorraine had already used most of the money. Graham covered Daniel and Audrey from a credit line, then demanded an accounting from his mother. Their arguments spilled into my life because both of them tried to recruit me. Lorraine came to Nina's apartment carrying a bakery box and the brass key in an envelope. Nina let her stand in the hall. "I'm not here to fight," Lorraine said. The terrier disagreed from behind the bedroom door. Lorraine held out the envelope. "Graham says this is yours." I took it, but did not invite her in. "He's blaming me for everything," she said, as though I signed the lease. He did sign it. At his mother's urging. There is a difference. Not to the tenants. Her mouth tightened. You always needed every feeling acknowledged before anything practical could happen. And you needed practical things to happen before anyone could object. I was trying to help him keep the house. I was trying to help him build a home. For a moment, she looked tired instead of indignant. "He loves you," she said. "He let you remove me from my own life by Friday. He thought you would come back." That hurt because it was probably true. Graham had imagined my departure as another temporary discomfort I would absorb until he needed me again. Lorraine looked past me into Nina's small apartment. Boxes lined the wall. My rolled rugs stood behind the couch. "You can still negotiate," she said. "He needs the closeout records explained. If you help him, he'll be more reasonable about reimbursing you." "There are no secret records. He has everything." "He doesn't understand everything. He can learn." Her eyes cooled. "You want him to fail. No, I want his success to stop requiring my disappearance." She left the bakery box on the floor and walked away. The program did not seize the house. It required corrections, a new inspection, an adjusted rehabilitation agreement, and repayment of part of the owner-occupant benefit if Graham intended to rent. His insurer would not add rental coverage until the basement and fire issues were cleared. The contractor reimbursement stayed frozen while he completed the review. He removed the bedroom locks. He returned the basement mattress. He rehired people he had once called overpriced because I was no longer available to fix their work after hours. 3 weeks after the inspection, I sent him an itemized list of what I had paid toward the house: appliances that remained, salvage materials, contractor deposits, and documented purchases. I excluded groceries, utilities, and my labor because I was tired of making claims he could turn into arguments about love. He rejected the total. Then the program office asked him for clarification on several expenses Lorraine had described as owner contributions, even though tenant deposits had reimbursed them. Fighting me would have required him to defend her accounting, while explaining why my receipts appeared in his reimbursement file. His second offer was still less than I had spent. I accepted a modest settlement paid in installments, along with the return of 2 tools and a box of personal items Lorraine had labeled house. It was not justice measured to the penny. It was enough for a deposit, a proper moving truck, and the right to stop opening emails with his name on them. My new apartment had uneven floors, white walls, and a kitchen window that faced a maple tree. The landlord handed me 2 silver keys and said I could make another copy if I wanted. I didn't. Nina helped me unpack the green ceramic bowl. Its old chip had widened during the move, so I repaired it with gold-tinted resin and left the seam visible. At the bottom of the last box, beneath the envelope Lorraine had brought, lay the old brass key with its faded green ribbon. Graham must have added it when he returned my things. It no longer opened anything I wanted. I placed it in the kitchen drawer, set the restored green bowl beside my door, and dropped my new key into it. The sound was small, solid, and entirely mine.